Let's recap Thursday Night Football next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Adam Azer. And Adam, Kyren Williams has been unbelievable. He is almost certainly going to finish above 20 fantasy points per game. He had 16.4 PPR points on Thursday night. And Kyren Williams probably isn't even the best waiver wire pickup from his own team this season. So the question I want to start our Thursday night, Friday morning podcast off with is, can you think of a better waiver wire pickup in fantasy than Puka Nacua ever?
I floated some names to you. I was thinking tight ends come out of nowhere, and Darren Waller, I think, was 2019. He was tight end 2. He was drafted, but I imagine he was on waivers in a lot of leagues. Mm-hmm. So that one came to mind. George Kittle's second year is kind of the same thing, but he was drafted a little bit higher than Waller. I thought for a second maybe James Conner, the year Le'Veon held out. But I think toward the end of the process, people were drafting Conner.
So him and James Robinson are the two that, like, the last 5 days of drafts, there's a lot of drafts in those last 5 days. Usually around 40 to 50% of all drafts on CBS Fantasy happen in the last week or so. So James Robinson and James Conner were probably pretty widely drafted, but those were the two of the ones that came to mind for me. James Robinson averaged about 17 PPR points per game. The point is, Puka Nacua just had 9 catches for 164 yards and a touchdown on Thursday night, added 2 carries for 16 yards. Another massive game from him. Look, he'd been a little up and down of late, but still someone I've viewed as a borderline wide receiver 1 as long as Matthew Stafford's been healthy. The faith was rewarded this week. I've got him in the 2 of the 3 leagues that I am still alive in, although I actually did draft him in those because, fantasy expert and all.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been just tremendous. He's likely to move back into the top 12 in points per game. He needs, I think, 8 catches and 127 yards over the next 2 games to break the rookie receptions and receiving yards records, which is just a testament to what a season he's having. And is he a top 12 wide receiver for 2024?
That's pretty close. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say it'd be kind of weird to put 2 Rams in the top 12. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Kupp would be out. It's definitely going to depend on the last 3 games and how they finish, and then presumably the playoffs for them.
Yeah. I think you do not want to be the team that faces the Rams in the playoffs right now.
Probably not. Of all the teams that are fighting to get in, this is definitely the team that I don't want to face. I mean, I think I'd rather have Chris Olave than him next year.
So, that's an interesting one. Olave, I was going to ask you that. 9 catches for 123 yards, 13 targets. It's going to be Derek Carr again, based on the contract situation, I'm pretty sure. And a lot of unrealized potential between the two of them. But you would rather have Chris Olave than Puka next year?
I mean, don't hold me to it, but I think Olave has done nothing to take away from him as a first-round pick who had a really good rookie season and is following it up with a very underrated second season in the league. Touchdowns have been a problem, but the guy is a stud. So, I take Olave over him as of now.
I think those are going to be some really interesting questions. I think Kyren Williams in drafts next year is going to be a fascinating question. Yeah, 5th round pick, mediocre athletic profile, 2 high ankle sprains since joining the NFL, but he's going to average 20 points per game this season. He's having a remarkable year. Let's move on. It was a really fun Thursday night football game, by the way. And as long as you didn't start Taysom Hill or, I guess, Alvin Kamara, your week got off to a pretty good start in the fantasy playoffs. Let's move on to 3 wide receivers for week 16 that I want to ask you about, Adam. Are you starting T. Higgins with Jamar Chase out on Saturday?
So I do have T. Higgins in a league. I'm going to start him over Deontay Johnson. I think I'm going to start him.
I do that as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start him over Austin Eckler in a half PPR league. Ooh. My only concern with Higgins is Joey Porter, but he's been pretty good and he can lock down a receiver. But I think the Steelers are just bad right now. They're just bad, and their secondary, they're missing their 2 starting safeties. So I do think Higgins is a solid number 2-3 starter. He's like a low end number 2 starter. But I generally would be starting Higgins.
Now I know Josh Palmer's going to be lower than T. Higgins, but Where are you at on him? Keenan Allen has been ruled out. I don't know what's going on with Keenan Allen. I asked one of the Chargers beat reporters if they've heard any details on what's going on with Keenan Allen. He said no. I think it's not unreasonable to assume it's a, hey, we're out of it, let's shut him down situation, but I don't want to say that for sure yet. But
Sure.
Where are you at on Josh Palmer?
4 targets. If he didn't have that long touchdown on busted coverage, we're not even really considering Josh Palmer. So he's not a top 30 wide receiver for me. Like Deontay Johnson, I would start over Josh Palmer. You'd have to be. Look, I could see the appeal here because Buffalo's defense is pretty injured itself. You know, they've got some holes in their secondary, and it could be a situation. I think they're like 12-point underdogs. They could be chasing points and throwing a lot, just like they were against the Raiders. But I don't really like big underdogs. I don't like that idea. Oh, they're going to be throwing a lot. That means they're not doing well. So I think I proceed with caution with Josh Palmer.
I think we can go really quickly on this one. Nico Collins said he's going to play on Thursday. Not likely to have C.J. Stroud. Is Nico Collins still a must-start wide receiver with Case Keenum?
Not against Cleveland. They're just too good at taking away the big play. Higgins versus Collins would be super close for me. Who would you go with there?
I would go with Collins, just how good he's been when he's been healthy this season. Obviously, that was with C.J. Stroud. Yeah. Huge downgrade at quarterback, but I would still give him the benefit of the doubt. But I agree. It's going to be very close.
Yeah, I would too. I agree. And by the way, if you face Puka or Olave or even Carr or whatever, don't panic. Those guys, even if they had done it on Sunday, they always had a chance to have a big game. It doesn't mean you're going to lose. You'll be all right, hopefully.
All right. You're going to be all right.
Don't hold me to that.
All right. That's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll see you tomorrow.